Welcome to Season 4 of the K4 Business Podcast.
Welcome back to the Knack for Business podcast. One of the things we do here, quietly in the background, is hunt for tools that actually work, vet them, and then bring the best ones forward for you. Today is one of those days. We partnered with a framework called Profit 10, built by Sanjay Gupta, and we're opening 3 doors for you. A free 5-minute profit snapshot if you're a business owner, a deeper paid assessment if you want the full picture, and a partner program if you're a coach, consultant, or advisor who works with business owners. All three live right here. Hosted by Knack for Business. Sanjay's here to walk us through it, and let's get into it. So, question of the audience. Your revenue keeps climbing, so why doesn't your bank account feel any different? Well, the gap between what you bring in and what you actually keep is one of the quietest, most exhausting problems a business owner can carry. Knack for Business went looking for a tool that could help and could help name it. And we found one. And today we're bringing it to you. Sanjay Gupta is the founder of Earnings Genius in Kingston, Ontario, and the creator of Profit 10 Framework and Growth Advisory Boards. He works both with growth stage business owners who are tired of running harder for less profit. He works with growth stage business owners who are tired of running harder for less profit. His 10 driver framework shows owners exactly where the money, time, and focus are quietly leaking. He pairs that with peer advisory boards, small circles of owners who think out loud together under one expert facilitator. One of his clients recovered over $500,000 pandemic loss and doubled their locations. Another added $150,000 in annual profit from a single boardroom conversation. Knack for Business met Sanjay, tested the framework, and decided it deserved to be in front of you. So welcome back to the show, sir. How are you?
Thank you. I'm great and really grateful that I have an opportunity to work with you and help your audience.
And same here. Greatly appreciate it. It's gold found in them there hills, so to speak. So what led you to create the Profit 10 framework?
Well, it came from seeing the same problem repeatedly with business owners. So many owners look successful from the outside. They had revenue, customers, staff, and activity, but behind the scenes, they were tired. Margins were thinner than they expected. Cash was tight and the business depended on them too much. So I wanted to create a practical way to help owners diagnose the whole business, not just chase symptoms. So sometimes what looks like a sales problem is really a pricing problem. Sometimes what looks like a people problem may be priorities problem. Sometimes what looks like an operations problem may actually be owner dependency. Profit 10 helps business owners see where the business is strong, where it's fragile, and where focused improvement can create more profit, scalability, and freedom.
It's interesting. I've done the snapshot, and it went really super quick. Literally 5 minutes. It's yes, no. What led you to that process? Because you're not asking for numbers. You're just asking, hi, where are you seeing what's happening in your business?
So I developed the snapshot because, in my view, there's three primary hurdles that most businesses have. There's process, profit, and personal freedom. Usually, if the processes are not documented, as the business grows, it might impact the profit of the business because you're going to end up making mistakes, causing mistakes that are going to reduce the profitability of the business. And then, of course, if there's no process or documented processes, usually everyone is still looking towards the owner for help or for guidance. And so that will cut in to their personal freedom. That will cut into their ability to, take time off. And for me, the litmus test when I'm chatting with a business owner is what would happen to the business if you took 30 days off? And
Yeah,
if the
that's
business owner says, well, I've never taken 30 days off, or I'm only able to take a couple days off and I need to plan for it. Well, that's a problem because most business owners start a business thinking that they've just created a job basically. But it's actually worse than having a job because usually you don't have time for vacations. So, and that for me is, I think, the tragedy of being an entrepreneur is most entrepreneurs become entrepreneurs because they genuinely have a passion for their product or service and helping their customers, but then it turns into a bit of a trap. And that trap is really because they can't see what's really happening in their business. The Profit 10 framework was really designed to help a business owner identify what those challenges are and then create a process for them to actually improve their business so that they achieve what I refer to as freedom, the final metric. Because once a business owner gets to a point where they can take time off effectively and get away from their business and it continues to run, continues to grow, continues to profit, well, that's the ultimate goal.
One thing I found as I was doing the snapshot was that some things I already knew, but it seemed to be contained and gelled in one spot. In other words, almost like a sum check. Why do most business owners not already see that? Is it the norm that if you actually sat back and looked at things, you go, yeah, I'm not taking vacation, or there's revenue coming in, but it's gross profit and the net, yeah, it's not jiving. You're not getting seemingly getting any further ahead. Why do business owners have that problem seeing this?
I think the primary issue is they're just so busy working in the business. And if you don't have an opportunity to step back and think about it, then you're just so caught up working in the business. And I mean, I'm not the only one that says that. I mean, there's so many of these. There's lots of business gurus out there that say that your ultimate objective should be to go from working in the business to working on the business. And it's usually when you start working on the business that you will discover where the challenges are. When I first start working with a business owner, the first question I ask them ultimately is, what do they want? Really, what is your end game with this business? And in most cases, it's always, I want to be able to sell it and retire. So what does that look like? And in many instances, they don't know. So that's the first challenge, is figuring out what does that end game look like. And I think most business owners are not able to see that because they're too busy working in the business. It turns into a job.
So it's more than just revenue though, right? It's like when did you realize, revenue isn't the only thing? Because if you mentioned earlier, what's your end game? If you're looking to sell the business, you're looking to scale it up, franchise it, whatever the opportunity is, revenue alone isn't going to cut it.
Well, that's why I always say revenue is vanity and profit is sanity. Because most entrepreneurs get caught up with, we just need to generate more revenue, but they don't really understand their numbers. I have a client who has a very, very low gross profit. And then he's always wondering why he doesn't have any money. And it's because he doesn't really understand his numbers. You need to understand your numbers. It's not just about revenue. It's at the end of the day, the thing that matters most is your profit. Like, what do you have at the end of a business cycle, or at the end of your fiscal year? Is how much money did your business actually make? And I premise that on how much did your business actually make after you paid yourself a fair salary. And a lot of business owners don't even pay themselves a salary. They go, "Oh, I only take dividends," which is actually, it's fine if you do that. But for an outsider, like a potential buyer of that business, if they look at that business, they're going to look at that from the perspective, well, what if I needed to hire someone to run the business for me? Is there going to be anything left over after? And so that's not a good strategy, is just taking dividends, I don't think. I think that you need to factor in a fair wage for yourself. A lot of entrepreneurs don't do that. And obviously, there's tax issues why people will only want to take dividends and stuff. You need to factor in a fair wage for yourself in order to justify a potential sale. And that's one of the reasons the Profit 10 framework always focuses on, what is your current enterprise value and what could it be if you address the 10 drivers that I focus on.
What are the other elements that they should be focusing on them? Because you just kind of mentioned like the future plan. You've mentioned, okay, you have to have your gross revenue, you got to get paid. What other elements are kind of key inside a business, especially if you're a small business looking to expand? What other elements is it marketing, customer issues? What?
That's a great question. And when I created the 10 drivers, it was really along the lines of, I wanted to set it up so it's relatively simple for someone to understand what those 10 drivers are. And when someone does the assessment, it basically measures, there's four key factors that I'm looking for. I want to understand what the strategic clarity of the business is. And so in order to do that, there's three key areas that I look at. Purpose, which is really, what are you really building and why? Positioning, does the market clearly understand your values? And then priorities. Are you focused or are you scattered? So that's going to have a huge impact on your strategic clarity. And then, of course, I look at organizational strength, which is people. So, do you have the right people in the right roles in your business? Performance, well, it is really, are you measuring what matters? And that's where you get into KPIs and those types of things. And then, of course, process, which is, can the business deliver consistently without the heroics of the owner? So that's the organizational strength. And then ultimately, you want to look at your financial outcomes, which is profit. Are you keeping enough of what you earn? And then pipeline is there a strong enough sales pipeline in the business that your future revenue will be healthy and predictable? And then finally, the fourth metric I'm trying to identify and determine is the owner freedom. And so the owner freedom is really going to be determined by preparedness. That's another driver, which is the business protected from risk and over dependence on maybe specific people in the organization, a customer, the owner. There's many examples of business owners I've dealt with where sometimes most of their revenue is from a few customers. Well, what happens if they lose a customer? That's a good question, isn't it? And then ultimately, personal freedom has the owner built a business, or are they simply creating a demanding job? So there's really four key elements that I look for: strategic clarity, organizational strength, the financial outcomes, and then personal freedom. And there's 10 core drivers. And when someone does the assessment, it will actually provide them with, there's like 8 questions per core driver, and it's really set up so it's relatively black and white, which means they're yes, no questions. You either have it or you don't. And that's essentially what I measure. And then those 10 core drivers then will help me determine the strength of their strategic clarity, how well their business is doing from an organizational perspective, their financial outcomes, and the owner freedom. And that's what the enterprise value report, it takes their answers and then it will actually assess the strengths. So that's you. So someone who does the bigger assessment, which takes about 20 to 25 minutes, that will actually provide them with a score out of 100 for the overall strength of the business and also for each driver. And that's, I think, the beauty of it, because it will provide you with your score out of 100 for each driver. And so then you know specifically what you need to work on, what you need to focus on, and what you need to strengthen. That's why, from a coach's perspective, this can be a very powerful tool, because it really helps a coach identify the areas of the business where they need the most help. And then they can work together to get that outcome. And one of the benefits of the report is basically it provides you with, here's what the value of the business is, here's what the expected value of the business is if you follow the 90-day plan. And so what provides a plan in order to help the business to get stronger. And that 90-day plan can be used by a coach to work with their client. That's really where I see the core benefit of this process. The beauty is that if someone does the assessment, it doesn't take that long. It takes them about 25 minutes, and they're going to get their score. They get a diagnostic guide, which will help the business owner understand what their score means. And then if they do want the enterprise value report, they can talk with the coach or consultant that referred them to that and learn more how they can get that.
Is the analysis of the snapshot, for example, or the next step up into that, is that agnostic to industry? In other words, if you're a retailer, you yourself are a coach, you're a SaaS company, any fit will come in here and give you that result?
So the beauty of it is it actually applies to any business. And that's because the questions are not industry specific. So it can be used, like I've worked with clients that have owned car repair. I've worked with clients that own service industries like financial services. I worked with health services. And this whole framework was developed out of that experience. So it's industry agnostic. Now, if a coach is focused on a specific industry, they can use this framework for that as well.
Just for our listeners, highlight here. If you want to take the snapshot, it's free to take. Just go to knackforbusiness.com, NACK, the number four, business.com, and you'll find on the website snapshot. And just click the button and carry on. You'll be taken down to the snapshot and proceed from there. So we've covered that part, but we also have another thing that we've developed through with Knack for Business and the Profit 10 platform. It's a partner program. And you've talked about it earlier. Coaches can use this. And why is it useful to the coaches and not just the owners?
That's a great question. Essentially, the partner program is useful for advisors because it creates a structured business conversation. So many coaches, consultants, fractional executives, advisors, they're great at helping owners, but often the first conversation with a business owner can be broad. It may not be as focused as it should be. So the owner may talk about sales, people, cash flow, operations, and stress all at the same time. What the Profit 10 does is it gives the advisor a common language and a diagnostic framework. So for advisors, it turns the first conversation into a structured business performance discussion. So instead of guessing where to start, the advisor can identify the owner's highest leverage issues and have a more valuable conversation. And that's really why the profit snapshot was put into place because it's very short. It takes 5 minutes. It's 24 questions. They're yes, no, and it will specifically measure process, profit, and freedom. So it only measures those three drivers, but those tend to be the most important drivers of a business. And if the snapshot shows that there's some major issues with process or profit, and in most cases, it's usually the freedom driver. Most business owners, when they do those 8 questions, in most cases, they'll score less than 50% because, like I said, entrepreneurs have a passion for their business and they also have a passion for their customers, but it's very difficult for them to let go of certain tasks within the business when it makes sense to. And one of the first things I do with a client, once I ascertain what they want, is I ask them to provide me with a list of everything they do in their business. And I remember I had a client who sent me a PowerPoint. Here's what I do for marketing. Here's what I do for sales. Here's what I do for admin. Here's what I do for this. Here's what I do for that. And I was like, wow. And I said, how do you manage? And he goes, well, I'm just busy all the time. And I think that is the case for many entrepreneurs. They're wearing every hat. And so the Profit 10 essentially helps them identify what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. And then for a perspective, if they're working with a coach or a consultant, it provides really a blueprint. Here's what we need to work on.
First off, who should take it? I get that. Anybody that's in business is a quick litmus test to going, are you jammed up? And then, like any other good programs or any other good businesses, you always have someone that coaches you in that business. So it's that person. And sometimes they're fractionals. So is it fractional, fractional chief operating officers? Who else should be that coach that would find this tool s- specifically honed to them to make them deliver the product itself?
Well, definitely coaches, consultants, business advisors can integrate the tool. I am working with some coaches and consultants on that. Also, there's businesses out there that actually help coaches get customers. One of my clients is actually using the tool as part of that sales process, the profit snapshot, which then helps open up the conversation and it creates a touch point. But you can have marketing and operations executives and financial executives use the tool as well because it'll give them a broader understanding of the business, although they might be focused on, more financial relation issues or operational or marketing. I run a peer group and I use my framework with my group. So peer groups, there's many different models out there. There's Mastermind, there's Vistage, and there's McKay, and so it can be used by what they call chairs. It's really it's not designed for any given coaching solution. It's really designed as a tool that can be used by coaches with different approaches to help them work with their client in a more meaningful and effective way. And so it's really designed to identify the weak areas and identify the strong areas and focus on making the weak areas stronger to ultimately what I refer to as increase the enterprise value. So it's really focused on helping the business owner increase the value of their business, which I think is so important when you think about what's the end game of what do you want from your business. I'm spending a lot of time with clients on succession planning. And so this is a tool that really helps identify the areas that will require the most time and focus to increase what the end value of their business could be. Sometimes, like simply increasing the net income of a business by 1 or 2% can mean hundreds of thousands of extra dollars when you sell the business. And so it's worth the effort to try to improve those areas.
One thing I discovered once I aligned with the Profit 10 framework, there's a website support you provide. In other words, the coach really doesn't have to worry about the content or a landing page. You provide that, and it's custom fit to what they're doing. In other words, their names in there, their backgrounds in there. Walk us through what's required for a coach that says, "Hey, listen, that's super handy." Because I'm sitting there going, "Wow, this actually made life a lot easier." And I get the purpose. I totally understand it, and it's not asking you, "Geez, dig out your financials and fire it over into the box." So the whole process, but at the same time, you already have a message that's already set up, that's designed to onboard people and make it clean and simple.
Yeah, my strategy for growing, getting the Profit 10 framework out there is really to partner with coaches and partner with organizations that are helping coaches because I think it's a really powerful tool. And so I've made it really simple. It's set up so that it's co-brand, it's Profit 10 framework, but then the landing pages that I offer are really for the profit snapshot. So if you go to the Knack for Business website and you click on Profit Snapshot, you'll see that it's co-branded. You've got the Knack for Business logo, and it has information about Bernie. And the whole idea is that it becomes your landing page, and you're using this tool. When someone does the actual assessment, your logo's on the assessments. The questions will show that, and then when they get the results page, it'll show the logo of, in this case, Knack for Business. And so it appears as if it's your own in that respect. And it is your own. That data is used by the coach to then follow up with the prospective client that did the snapshot. And then there's a second landing page, which is really the main assessment. And I've set it up so that it's easily accessible for someone to get involved in this. And it's really designed so that the ease of entry covers some time costs for creating the landing pages and, some of the costs related to hosting all this. And the reports are really, they're professional reports and they're really designed to be something that a coach can use to provide exceptional value to the client, and it opens up more meaningful conversations. But at the same time, the coach can actually use the report as a sales tool as well. The enterprise value report can be used as a sales tool. And particularly if you pair it up with a 90-minute session, a consulting session where you're going to go over it with the client. And that's part of when someone signs up and becomes a coach and wants to use the framework. I'll spend 60 minutes with them on a Zoom call and I'll show them how to use it and how to maximize the return from it.
I will admit, Sanjay, it was super easy. All I had to provide you, other than "Hey, I'm here," and the words "Yes, this sounds like a great idea," was a photo, a logo, and a bio, and it could be recrafted, tweaked, so it's not one and done. It could be one and done and massage, so it's a good fit. So totally appreciate that. That was one of my most painless onboarding sessions I've gone through yet, and even when I'm doing stuff online where everything is, "Please load your photo here." So so thank you. I wanna say that let folks know that it's super easy to do that. But
I was just going to say, I have a philosophy in life, keep it sweet and simple. And so when I work with a coach, I try to keep it as simple as possible for them. Bio, photo, logo, and then they can also provide me with input on how they want it improved. We can even change the landing pages to a certain degree to meet their needs. In other words, it's really kind of a white glove service that I provide.
and excellent, and you don't even have to worry about collecting the names because the names do get collected and they do come back to the coach. It's a great integration.
100%. Yeah.
So why did you pick Knack for Business? Why did it make sense?
Well, I mean, it makes sense because you cater towards entrepreneurs and business owners that offering them the profit snapshot it's a beautiful add-on because it's going to help your listeners identify where they're at when it comes to process, profit, and personal freedom. And then if they choose to do the larger assessment, they can do that as well. And then from the perspective of coaches and consultants and advisors, every coach, anyone who's trying to help business owners, they're always looking for tools for their tool chest to better advise, better assess, and offer more value. And that's really what the Profit 10 framework was. That's why I created it. And part of the reason I created it was because I wanted to provide something that can be used by many coaches. Until now, I've been just working a lot with individual clients from the standpoint of helping them grow their businesses. But this tool, I can leverage my time to a certain degree, and have multiple coaches using the tool so that we're actually able to help more business owners. From a personal standpoint, it just makes sense for me. And I'm going to get a little personal. My father passed away in September, and it really gets you to think about what's your legacy in life going to be. And I want Profit 10 to be something that, coaches, consultants, and advisors and business owners use to get better, to improve. And how many coaches, consultants, and advisors can I help? Hopefully hundreds in the long term, which will turn into thousands of business owners that are increasing their enterprise value. I can't do that on my own. I need to expand it, and that's why I've set it up so that you can partner with me, and I want to spend my helping coaches and working with them, but I also have a strong passion to work with my clients, and I have a core number of clients I work with, so it's really just boils down to time.
And yeah, and scalability.
Correct.
Uh, So, folks, if you're listening to this and you're going, hey, listen, I'm intrigued. If the partnership program is intriguing you and you're curious and you want to investigate it, follow the link at the bottom of the page that says partnership program, and it'll take you to the tab, or go to knacforbusiness.com/partnership, and you'll find all the details therein. And it's a good exercise. You can check out what's happening. Take the snapshot first. Try the suit on, how it works. You'll see it. And odds are you're going to be talking to people that have those issues, or you've recognized issues clients have. This will help them recognize it, which is a great opening for a conversation, so you can work on the topics at hand. Sanjay, what's one thing you want every listener, owner, or advisor to take away from this session that we've just had?
That's a great question. So, one thing I'd want every listener to remember is this: a stronger business starts with a clearer diagnosis. In other words, you need to understand what your challenges are. So, if you're an owner, you should take the snapshot, look at your business honestly, and figure out where focused improvements can improve your business. If you're an advisor, you need to keep in mind that business owners don't just need advice, they need a clear way to understand what is really happening inside their business. And that's one of the things that the Profit Snapshot can do for them. It was designed to create clarity before prescribing, before action. And that is the key to understanding why your business may not be achieving the results that you want is clarity. And that's what the snapshot does, is it will open your eyes, and you'll often be able to figure out why your profit, your scalability, and your freedom is not as high as you would like. And that really is the purpose of the Profit 10 framework, is to create clarity and to help owners understand the strengths and weaknesses of their business more effectively.
So, folks, you got two doors to pick. Try door number one. Behind door number one, you'll find a snapshot. Doesn't cost you anything. So, 5 minutes of your time, get some results. Understand what your business is all about. Door number two, you want to help people, and this is part of your forte. Then go to door number two also, and check out on the Knack for Business website, NACK, the number four, business.com. And so the snapshot, it's a button. The partnership, it's a link at the base of the page, and check it out, because the stronger business starts with clearer diagnosis. Pick your door, walk through it today, if not next week. A quick thank you to Mr. Wayne Pratt from Motivate You Inc., who's a coach who introduced Sanjay to the Knack for Business family. And so we're ever so grateful, and it's a boon to be had. And folks, if you've been listening to other podcasts out of Knack for Business, Sanjay has been a guest on several other shows, and listen to the wisdom at hand. Here's what Knack for Business brought to you today: a free door for any owner who wants to know where their profit is hiding, a deeper door for owners ready to do the work, and a door for the coaches and advisors who guide them. So it just brings you into a quick reality check, and puts you in good stead. Because if you're looking to grow the business, you're looking to sell it, scale it, franchise it, all these things. You're going to need this stuff, all right? And it's gonna solidify your stance. And you want to know more about us at Knack for Business? It's NACK, the number 4, business.com. We have a little chat bot in the bottom right-hand corner. Click on it for more information about past episodes, or just want to book a call with us. Sanjay, I want to say thank you so much. I appreciate your time today and appreciate you sharing the Profit 10 framework with us.
Well, thank you. And I really appreciate, and I'm very excited about our partnership. So
Same here. Absolutely
yeah,
same here.
thank you. So I encourage all your listeners to do the profit snapshot and see where they're at.
You know what? We've done over 500 episodes at this point, 500 plus episodes. We're over 600,000 downloads and
Amazing.
climbing. And since March 18th, 2025, I just tooted my horn. But the key here is, how do you sustain and keep something going? So if you got a really good thing going and you like it and you want to make sure that it's a viable business, regardless where you're going with it, whether you're scaling it or otherwise, again, the Profit 10 framework is there to help you.
Everything you heard today is for educational purposes only. It's not professional advice. Before you act on anything, talk to a certified expert in your area. Your accountant, your lawyer, someone who knows your situation. We share perspectives. You make the decisions. Want more? Head over to blog.knack4business.com, packed with practical episodes on AI, marketing, leadership, and growth. No fluff, just the good stuff. Subscribe while you're there. Until next time, keep building.